You open your eyes for the very first time, and congratulations, you're a human baby, but not like the other babies in the hospital ward. Nobody knows it yet, but you've just been born with magic. And while that might sound exciting, it's actually going to make your life incredibly complicated. You're born in 1940 to two non-magical parents in Leeds, England. And for the first 11 years of your life, strange things seem to happen around you. Lights exploding when you're upset, objects moving on their own, accidentally making things happen that you can't explain. Your parents don't understand it, and neither do the doctors. Then, on your 11th birthday in the summer of 1951, everything changes when a letter is delivered to your house by an owl. It's an acceptance letter from the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. It's addressed to you in green ink, sealed with a crimson wax crest, and somehow lists your exact bedroom. That's because there are only a few thousand wizards in all of Britain, and it turns out that you are one of them. Your parents, however, are just regular people, or as they're known in the wizarding world, muggles. And because they're just muggles, it's standard protocol that you get a visit from a member of the Ministry of Magic along with your letter so they can explain things to them. You see, the Ministry of Magic is the main governing body of the magical community of Great Britain and Ireland. The muggles here are governed by the UK government, but the wizards are governed by the Ministry. A witch knocks at your front, and after being invited in, she explains to your parents that you're a wizard, and that there's a hidden magical society that's been operating under their noses for all of recorded history. She tells them you'll be attending Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, a boarding school where you'll receive the finest education in magic that a wizard can get. The International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy, established in 1692, normally forbids revealing magic to non-magical people, but in cases where the child is magical, the parents must be told. There are schools located all over the world, but you're off to Hogwarts in the Scottish Highlands. The witch hands your parents a supply list and directions to the Leaky Cauldron in London, then disappears with a crack, vanishing into thin air. A few weeks later, your parents take you to Diagon Alley through the Leaky Cauldron, a grimy pub they couldn't see until you pointed it out. The barman taps specific bricks on the back wall that's 3 up and 2 across, and it opens into a cobblestone shopping street that looks Victorian. First stop is Gringotts, the goblin-run bank. Goblins are 3 to 4 foot tall with long fingers and pointed beards, and they're very distrustful, usually slightly more towards wizards than muggles. Your mother exchanges £500 for wizarding currency, galleons, gold, sickles, silver, and nuts, bronze. The conversion is 17 sickles to a galleon and 29 nuts to a sickle, and 1 galleon equals about £5, making your supply budget roughly 100 galleons. You need a pewter cauldron, standard size 2 specifically, glass vials, a telescope, brass scales, 3 sets of plain work robes, a pointed hat, dragonhide gloves, a winter cloak, and books. The Standard Book of Spells, A History of Magic, Magical Theory, A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration, 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi, Magical Drafts and Potions, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and The Dark Forces, A Guide to Self-Protection. These books are only available at Flourish and Blots, and cost significantly more than regular textbooks. You also need parchment, quills, and ink, because wizards don't use pens or pencils. At Ollivander's, makers of fine wands since 382 BC, the eccentric Mr. Ollivander measures you obsessively and pulls down dusty boxes. The process involves trying multiple wands until one responds to you. His family has been operating this business for thousands of years. So when it comes to picking wands, Mr. Ollivander here is as much of an expert as you're going to get. After trying a few, one feels warm. 10¼ inches, oak with dragon heartstring unyielding. That'll be 7 galleons. You also need an owl for 15 galleons, more than your wand costs. Because the wizarding postal system is entirely owl-based. Owls somehow know where everyone lives and deliver letters accordingly. By the end of the day, you've spent most of the money. Your mother is quietly horrified, especially knowing you'll need new books every year for 7 years. September 1st. You're at King's Cross Station looking for platform 9 3/4. There's no sign for it. You have to run through the brick barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Your parents watch in horror as you disappear through a solid brick wall. Platform 9 3/4 is packed with families in robes. You board the Hogwarts Express, and the train departs at 11 o'clock for a 7-hour journey to Scotland. Peering out the window, you slowly watch your old life disappear as the train pulls away. The 7-hour journey reveals a social divide. Students from magical families discuss Quidditch, a sport on flying broomsticks, the Flow Network, fireplace travel, and famous wizards. When you mention television, someone asks what that is. You see, wizarding homes don't have electricity. They just use candles or magical light. The Ministry of Magic bans certain muggle artifacts like radios or cars, reinforcing cultural isolation to preserve a stagnant and elitist society. Another muggle-born girl quietly tells you some wizards use a slur for people like you. Mudblood. Congratulations, you made it to Hogwarts. On the first night there, you're sorted into one of the 4 houses by the Sorting Hat, a sentient hat that reads minds. It's over 1,000 years old and used to be owned by Godric Gryffindor, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. It was a regular hat that was enchanted by all 4 founders for this exact purpose. You'll be placed in one of the 4 houses, each named after one of the 4 founders, based on your personality traits. Gryffindor, bravery. Hufflepuff, loyalty. Ravenclaw, intelligence. And Slytherin, ambition. This placement is permanent and determines your dormitory, dining table, and most class assignments for 7 years. You're all gathered in the Great Hall, with the ceiling enchanted to show the night sky, and each student is called forward alphabetically. It's your turn now, and the Sorting Hat is placed on your head. The Sorting Hat delves into your mind, analyzing your thoughts, traits, desires, and potential. After 30 seconds of deliberation that feels like an eternity, it shouts, Hufflepuff. This decision is final and completely permanent. Based on this one interaction when you're only 11 years old, your entire school experience is determined. The house system creates division rather than unity. You have separate dormitories, separate tables, separate friend groups. You want friends in other houses? Good luck. You're basically in rival gangs now. But is it fair to do all this based on the personality you have at 11 years old? Who cares? It's definitely not the most immortal thing you're going to see at Hogwarts. There's an endless feud between the school's houses promoted by the staff itself. Teachers from certain houses play favourites with little to no repercussions for their behaviour. After sorting, there's a feast. Food appears on golden plates, roast beef, chicken, pork chops, potatoes, Yorkshire pudding. It's prepared by house elves in the kitchens below, but no one really mentions this. House elves are sentient magical creatures enslaved to do domestic labor, and most wizards consider this normal. You're shown to the Hufflepuff common room near the kitchens, accessed by tapping a barrel in rhythm. 2 from the bottom, middle of the second row, to the beat of Helga Hufflepuff. Get it wrong, and you're doused in vinegar. Your circular dormitory has windows showing grass and dandelions. You're partially underground, and you'll share this room with the same 4 boys for the next 7 years. The next morning, you receive your timetable, outlining all the different classes you'll be taking at Hogwarts. There's Transfiguration, Charms, Potions, History of Magic, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Astronomy, and Herbology. That's it. 7 subjects, all magical. No mathematics beyond the basics, and definitely no science. Wizards aren't big fans of science. They can be pretty dismissive of that kind of thing. There's no literature, geography, languages, art, or music. For any Muggle-borns, this is devastating. You're only 11, and your non-magical education ends here. By 18, you'll have missed 7 years of regular schooling. No GCSEs, no university, and no qualifications the Muggle world would recognize. It's pretty tough to get a real job without those. The wizarding world is betting on you staying forever. Transfiguration involves altering molecule structure, and students begin practical work immediately before any theory. Your first assignment is to turn matches into needles, and most students fail for weeks. But be warned, mistakes can cause permanent physical damage. Your Charms class, on the other hand, is way more encouraging. You'll learn practical spells like the Levitation Charm, which makes things float, Summoning Charm that brings objects to you, Unlocking Charm, which can unlock almost any door, and the Wand Lighting Charm, which, as its name hints at, can create light. Then there's potions class, which has virtually no safety standards. You work with ingredients that will burn you, poison you, or straight up explode. You're dealing with lacewing flies, leeches, boomslang skin, and powdered griffin claw, and mixing them all together in just the right way. Yuck. There's no fume hoods, no safety goggles, and no emergency wash stations. If your potion melts through your cauldron onto your lap, then unlucky kid. You end up in the hospital wing with acid burns. History of magic is taught by Professor Binns, who is literally a ghost. Professor Cuthbert Binns was a regular wizard teacher here, until one day he dozed off in the staff room and died in his sleep. Then he just kept teaching like nothing ever happened. His monotone lectures about goblin rebellions and giant wars put everyone to sleep. Which is a shame, because the subjects are actually pretty interesting. You learn that goblins face severe discrimination and are not allowed to carry wands, and that giants were nearly completely exterminated by wizards. Then you have defense against the dark arts. It should teach you protection from dark magic, but the position is cursed. No teacher lasts more than a year. By graduation, you'll have seen 7 different teachers with massive gaps in your education. Astronomy classes are held at midnight on Wednesdays atop the tallest tower. You learn about planets and their magical properties. Mars is associated with war, and it's very bright this decade. Something some wizards consider to be a bad omen. Herbology involves magical plants. Some are useful, others actively try to kill you. In second year, you'll repot mandrakes while wearing ear masks because their cries are literally fatal. The curriculum here is insane, with absolutely no real-world prep. It feels more like you're learning to construct makeshift bombs for your paramilitary school rather than learning to become a functional member of society. And then there's the castle itself, which is incredibly hazardous. Staircases move and leave you stranded. Some stairs even have trick steps that you can fall through. Doors won't even open unless you ask politely. And not to mention Peeves the poltergeist, who has a tendency to drop things on students' heads. It's not until you go home for Christmas that the gap between the wizarding world and muggle reality becomes clear. Your parents ask about school, but can't understand your answers. Your friends are at secondary school, taking normal classes that you just can't relate to. You can't discuss your real life. The International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy forbids telling any muggles about magic. The penalty for breaking it includes having your wand snapped, or even worse, being thrown into Azkaban prison. What is Azkaban prison, you might ask? Azkaban is a prison for wizards, located on a North Sea island and guarded by Dementors. Creatures that feed on human happiness and drain all positive emotions. Extended exposure to their attacks causes insanity, and the Ministry is just totally cool with this. Your parents can't write to you normally. Letters must go by owl, constantly frightening the neighbors. And you can't call either, because Hogwarts has no phones. Magic interferes with electrical technology, and they certainly can't visit. Enchantments hide Hogwarts from muggles, so they're definitely not going to be any help with your homework on dragon blood properties or moonstone. By third year, you notice blood purity politics, or basically wizard racism. Some pureblood students openly discuss how muggleborns are diluting magical blood, and how old families should run everything. These aren't rare or fringe opinions. Even prominent ministry officials share these views. Now at 14 years of age, you start to learn a little more about wizarding government problems. The Ministry of Magic is run by wealthy purebloods who got their positions through connections. The Wizengamot Magical Court has no jury, no presumption of innocence, and no guaranteed legal representation. If you're accused of dark magic, you're guilty until proven innocent. In 5th year, you take your OWLs, Ordinary Wizarding Levels, or OWLs for short. These are written and practical exams that determine what careers you can pursue. To say the pressure is intense would be an understatement. Without high enough grades, many career paths will close completely, forever. In year 6 and 7, you take your NEWTs, or nastily exhausting wizarding tests, while considering careers. You could work for the ministry, become a healer at St. Mungo's Hospital, or try becoming an aura, someone who hunts dark wizards. You can't combine magical and muggle careers, because using magic to help muggles is illegal exposure. So forget about using any magic to make an accounting job easier. For Muggleborns, returning to the non-magical world means catching up on 7 years of missed education while explaining the gap. Almost everyone chooses to stay in the magical world because they don't really have an alternative. After 7 long years, you finally graduate from the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in 1958 at the ripe old age of 18 years old. You get a job working at the ministry straight out of school, and the pay is modest but stable. You try maintaining your relationship with your parents, but visits and regular conversations become very difficult. They just don't understand your job or your world. You work this job for years, but when you're 34, something terrible happens. A dark wizard by the name of Lord Voldemort begins gathering followers for an evil cause. His ideology is simple. He believes in pure blood supremacy. Muggleborns have stolen magic and should be eliminated. And his followers, known as the Death Eaters, begin targeting Muggleborns and anyone opposing them. The attacks escalate, and Muggleborns all across the country begin to drop dead. Some disappear or are assassinated, and entire families are wiped out overnight because of their bloodline. Some are found dead with the Dark Mark, a skull with a serpent, floating above their homes. The ministry claims to be in control of the situation, but as someone working on the inside, you know they're not. You can't warn your parents about it without revealing the magical world. You can't protect them from the threats they don't even know exist. Some Muggleborns hide, while others join the Order of the Phoenix, a resistance group founded by Albus Dumbledore. It stands as one of the only groups willing to fight back. Its members are a mix of auras, idealists, and ordinary witches and wizards who are tired of pretending everything was fine. You join them because waiting to be found by the Death Eaters seems way worse. You work together to protect targeted families and disrupt Death Eater operations, and many of the Order members died terrible, terrible deaths. Then in 1979, during a mission evacuating a Muggleborn family before Death Eaters arrive, you're ambushed. 4 Death Eaters appear. You hold them off long enough for the family to escape, but in the end, you're outnumbered. A killing curse hits you from behind, a dark spell outlawed by the ministry for generations, and you die at just 39 years old. Your body is recovered and buried in a small war casualties cemetery. Your parents are told you died in an accident, because the ministry can't give details without breaking the statute of secrecy. They'll never understand what you fought for or what your life became after you turned 11. The war continues on for 2 more years before the Order's victory, but you never live to see Voldemort defeated in 1981 to a baby in Godric's Hollow, funnily enough. Hundreds die in the war, with Muggleborns targeted simply for having non-magical parents. You're just one name among the many casualties in a war most of the world will never even know happened. But that's just what it means to be a Muggle-born wizard. You're pulled into a hidden world as a child, educated in a system that cuts you off from your previous life, forced to choose between worlds that can't coexist. Then when war comes, and in the wizarding world, it always comes, you're targeted for your ancestry by people who believe you don't deserve magic. You're caught between 2 worlds, not fully belonging to either, and dying in a conflict your parents will never understand.